Okay, so recording's going. And thanks everyone for joining. Tonight we have John giving his talk from the DEFCON Red Team Village. And so the advantage you have here today is we have a live Q&A, so you can ask questions on here towards the end. And we got plenty of time to discuss afterwards, no hard stops. So as long as you have questions and John has the breath to answer those questions, we'll continue on. So John, why don't you take it away and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, thank you, Philip, for having me here. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be here and hang out with the Pwn project, or the Pwn project. Sorry, I keep calling it Pwn. With the Pwn project. My name's John Helmus. We'll see a little bit more about me later in the slides. However, just to give a brief scope of my background, as you heard me and Wirefall talking about, I'm a veteran. I live in Seattle, Washington, or well, live outside of Seattle, Washington. I like to just say Seattle because it's easier, because it's a landmark. I'm currently a penetration tester for Nordstrom headquarters. I do anything from typical pen testing, white box, and some black box. I specialize in cloud pen testing for them, so I'm one of their more main cloud pen testers over there, as well as do other various things such as threat emulation, root cause analysis, and just team building exercises and team training as well. And aside from Nordstrom, I also am an adjunct professor at the City University of Seattle. I teach undergrad and graduate level graduate level cybersecurity courses there, ranging from anything from just basic cybersecurity to a little bit more advanced topics. So that's basically me in a nutshell, which we'll talk more about me throughout this presentation, because I really wanted to use this presentation as you may have seen in DEFCON. I did talk a little bit about myself, but I like to paint a picture of how I came from a very, very non-technical, very non-traditional background, much like Philip here, and was able to kind of shift my mindset and shift the way how I go about my career and get it into a technical career field such as pen testing. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get So this is going to be the agenda. If you've watched the DEFCON talk, I've kind of changed a few things here. We've consolidated a couple bullet points. I've also added a couple high-level roadmaps at the end that's actually going to kind of break down in a viewable process of how you can go about from coming from a couple different viewpoints and how you can become a pen tester. So I'm not going to worry really too much about reading everything right here, because we're going to go over it. All right. So myself, right? My name is John Helmus. On the right here, you see a list of things that I've done. These, I like to always point out these because it shows just the various titles that I've held over the past few years that have helped lead me into a career in pen testing. And as you can see, it wasn't always doing anything offensive security related, right? I've kind of dabbled in a lot of different things, and that's really helped me get into pen testing. So as I was talking about at the beginning of the talk, or well, before we started talking, I used to be in the Navy. I served in the Navy for about 4.5 years or so. I was a boat engineer. So what that entailed was I worked on small boats and went on missions with small boats. And I'm not talking about like a small frigate. I'm talking about like a 33-inch like fast boat. So I did that for like I said, about 4.5 years. Got out and actually wanted to go into law enforcement. However, riding in small boats for a living, your knees kind of become shock absorbers, and my knees were completely deteriorated. There's no cartilage left in them anymore. So I was not able to pass the physical for any law enforcement exams, or well, physical exams. So I decided that, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go into a career field in some kind of, cybersecurity, because I really wanted to help people, and, security, law enforcement, they kind of sound synonymous, right? And that was literally like part of the thought process that went through my head. And I also, I went to school originally back in the day before the Navy. I went to school for audio engineering. So I was really, really into computers and learning how to put things together on computers. So I thought, okay, well, I like all this stuff, so why not try to get back into tech? So that's what I did. I started going to school and got a degree in information technology. And during that time, I got a job as a help desk specialist with the help of a local recruiter, which was really nice because they really helped push me forward in trying to get me a job. And from there, I just excelled, right? I got a degree, I got a couple certifications while I was in the help desk position, which then the company that I was at pivoted me forward into becoming a firewall tech. I started working on networks and firewalls for the company that I was working for. And from there, was attending night classes at a local school down in San Diego where I was living at the time. And I met someone who was an ISSO, that's an information systems security officer for a DoD contract. He knew that I had Security Plus, a bachelor's degree, and had some tech experience. So I met all the checks in the box. So guess what? He got me a job on his team. And from there, I was in cybersecurity. So I did that with the DoD for a little while, got my master's degree, which, as you can see, it's up here. It's a master's degree in cybersecurity with a specialization in ethical hacking and pen testing. That's my highest level degree. That's why I have that up there. So I got that. And from there, my career kind of excelled. I became a professor once I got my degree. I was a really good student. And one of my professors was the dean of another college in San Diego, and he offered me a job to teach part-time. So I taught ethical hacking and pen testing there. And then while doing all this stuff, I also got hit up to do consulting, and I couldn't say no. And you're going to notice throughout this entire talk that I have a really hard time saying no, because I really like to help and I like to get my hands dirty, and I don't mind losing sleep. Thank you to the Navy. So I started doing consulting on the side while also working full-time as a ISSE. And yeah, so I was doing a bunch of different stuff, right? Getting my hands dirty. Then I got hit up by a third party to do content writing for CompTIA. And so I mentioned in the DEFCON talk that if you have done the Cert Master questions for either the Network Plus exam or the Pentest Plus exam, there's a good chance that you got a question that I wrote. Only if it's a good question, though. The bad questions weren't me. And so I did that, and then I started doing TPM work for this third-party company, managing teams, writing out content for CompTIA. And so I did that for a while, and then I actually hit burnout pretty hard, and then I took a break from everything, just did my ISSE job, and then wound up finding a red team operator position based out of San Diego with the DoD. And I had a secret clearance. I had CEH, and which we'll talk a little bit later about why CEH is needed. But I had CEH and I had Security Plus. So I had all the checks in the box to get this job. So I literally just did one of those like quick applies or easy applies, whatever it is on LinkedIn, and just put my phone number and it, put in my profile as a resume, put that in, got a call within an hour saying they wanted to interview me. And the rest is history. I went through like 2 weeks of interviewing, and then I got a job offer to become a red team operator for the DoD. So that was really fun. And that was my first official like pen testing job. I had done security consulting and things before that. But I did, really cool stuff that I really can't talk about on a live chat. But either way, so I did that for a while and had a lot of fun, but I have a family and I don't really like being away from my family, and that required me to move around a lot. So fast forward to doing that for about a year. My partner, she got a job offer with Amazon and in Seattle, and we're living in San Diego at the time. And she said, "Hey, you want to do this? Let's go." I said, "Okay." So I did that. She got a job with Amazon doing cybersecurity. She's also a security engineer. So we packed up our family and we bought a farm up here in Snohomish, which is about 30 miles north of Seattle. And I got a job working with Nordstrom, and I've been there ever since. And then since then, I've also done like some bug bounty stuff on HackerOne and BugCrowd. I do a lot of my own AWS research, which, coordinates with the book that I'm writing right now. And, as it says, I'm a pending author. So, and the other highlight, the highest certification I have, I wanted to put that up there too, is I have the OSCP. I did that this year. It took me about 6 months plus 2 tries, a fail and a pass, to get it. So, and these are just some things that I'm doing right now. Like I said, I'm a pen test engineer at Nordstrom. I work for the City University of Seattle as an adjunct professor. I also do a little bit of stuff with HackerU. Please feel we can talk about that in the Q&A afterwards. It's a pretty cool third-party university that works with big name universities and teaches exactly what you would think: ethical hacking and red teaming and pen testing. I'm also, as of today, it was my first official day. I am a PhD of cyber operations student at the Dakota State University. So I'm doing that for at least the next 3 years. And then here's a picture of part of my pasture that has some of my animals. I'm an alpaca farmer, as well as we have a pig and goats and chickens and ducks and all sorts of stuff. So that's what I do now in a nutshell. So that's kind of my life and how I've gotten to the point that I'm at now. So, like I said, not so traditional, right? All right. So I like to give this brief synopsis of like what pen testing is, at least in my own eyes, right? So it says, penetration testing, also known as pen testing, ethical hacking, yada, 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 right, is an authorized simulated cyber attack. The key word there is authorized, right, on a computer system performed to evaluate the security of a system, right? We're basically hacking our own systems before the bad guys do, right? And we're also not just looking at like technical things. We're looking at business processes. We're looking at policies, standards, how people do things, the culture. We're looking at everything. So for those of you that are pen testers, you know what I'm talking about. And for those of you that want to get into pen testing, just know that you do a lot more than just the technical part. So, I'm going to kind of like read this verbatim. It says, penetration testing is more than just hacking things. And I'm doing air quotes now. In fact, pen testing is a lot more research and writing than actual hacking. So it says, for example, imagine you're scrolling around on the web looking for an article that has to do with something, right? We'll say X. X can equal whatever you want, but X will define the scope of what you're looking for. So X is like your target or your target environment, right? So you're going to do a bunch of research about your target environment. You're going to enumerate, scan some systems, find out all you can about them, and move forward, right? So once you find X, you read all you can about it, right? That's enumerating, scanning, recon, all that good stuff, right? And then you find X, and you do all this stuff, and then maybe you gain access to X, to a target, and then you start going and looking at other things like Y and Z. Well, once you start looking at Y and Z, and you start going and hacking them, and whether that's scanning or actually gaining access, that's lateral movements, right? So I always like to say that X is the initial target. You're gaining access. You're doing research. You do a lot of things before you even try to attack it. And then once you get access to it, you start going to Y and Z, and you start doing the same process, right? So imagine you have to write out a comprehensive report that details every step that you just talked about, right? During and after your web search, right? While you're doing all the stuff looking on the web for whatever it is that you want to look for, right? And that report has to illustrate the why and the what of your search, right? So you have to give reason to why you did it and what exactly you were doing. And we were talking about before the talk with me and Philip and talking about book writing, it's almost the exact same thing with report writing. You have to be very detailed. So you have to display all these whats and whys and lessons learned and ways of how to fix things and why it has to be fixed like that. That's pen testing, right? So you do all this stuff, looking around, do a bunch of research, and then do a bunch of report writing and some more research and things like that, right? And then if you really think about it, it's not a lot of attacking. You are attacking things, but it's a lot more research and reporting than anything. So the reality of pen testing, this is straight from a blog of mine, banging your head against the wall, looking at systems that are typically locked down fairly well. Shout out to all the big companies that are, locking down their controls properly. So think of it as a highly technical quality assurance position with a security engineer mindset. That's 100% true. I always say pen testers are just quality assurance engineers on steroids. So penetration testing is 70% report writing and research, while only 30% hands-on. And what I mean by that is that you're going to spend 70% of your time, if you have one target, say you have one computer, you have a Windows computer in front of you, you know nothing about it. You don't know the apps on it. You don't know the ports on it. You don't know anything. You're going to spend more time. You're going to scan it. You're going to get a list of ports. Then what are you going to do? You're going to go Google all the stuff about the services and the ports and the applications on there. You're going to spend more time than you did running an nmap scan on it, right? Doing the nmap scan is probably going to take you 20 seconds. You're going to go spend an hour researching everything about all the stuff that's listed on the ports. And then it's rinse, lather, repeat, right? When we're looking and gaining access to things. And then you're going to report all that. So when you really think about it, it's more looking at something from a high level view and then actually attacking it and then reporting it. So the reason why we pen test, well, we got these guys with different colored hats, right? So the guy with the white hat, that's the pen testers. Those are the good guys, right? Those are the guys that are out there, making the world a better place. I always like to say the gray hat is the one that's in between. That's the hacker that, would, steal Bitcoin to feed his family if he had to, right? Gray hat is a wild card. I like that. And then the black hat is the cyber criminal. That's the one that we always think about. But I always like to say that the black hat and the gray hat are the ones that keep the white hat employed. So the black hat is going to be the cyber criminal. The gray hat could even be someone such as an insider threat. Or I like to think about if you have followed that Twitter attack that happened recently, and the insider was actually bribed. So the insider wasn't technically an attack vector until they got bribed. They were just an employee till then. So they kind of like were gray hattish, right? And maybe they didn't even know it. Either way, these are the reasons why we pen test, because we have to have a white hat that sits there and assesses systems to make sure that these other two hats aren't doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. And then also, I always like to say this is to keep the lights on. Compliance, right? We have so many legal requirements. And for those of you really trying to get into pen testing, if you want an easy way in, go get some certs that are going to make you compliant with pen testing. Because certs like the CEH, I think even the GPIN, don't quote me on it, but the GPIN and the OSCP is obviously a difficult one, so don't go for that one first. But the CEH, if you have the CEH, you are qualified to do compliance-based pen testing. So just keep that in the back of your head. You might go, and we're going to talk about cost-benefit analysis and all that stuff with all the certs later, but think about that. If you pay a certain amount of money and you're really wanting to get into pen testing and you have the technical chops and you got all this stuff, you just don't have that cert to get you a job working as a pen tester because you have to be compliant. CEH is going to be the thing that gets you in. I have to take a sip of my tea really quick. I get dry mouth really quick. All right. So becoming a pen tester, right? The student mindset, we need to talk about being curious, expanding your network, and all these other bullet points, right? So for those of you that watch the DEFCON talk, some of this is going to be a little redundant. However, again, the difference between the DEFCON talk and this is that we have live Q&A, right? So the student mindset, it's not about, saying you need to go to school. That's not what I'm talking about. Not by a long shot. A student mindset means that you condition yourself to want to learn and to be humble and hungry to learn, right? So that's why the first bullet point here is being a curious learner, right? The other big thing is to stay out of your comfort zone. When you're pen testing, you're going to, I kid you not, on every pen test, you're going to have something that's going to bring you out of your comfort zone because you're not going to know what it is. And you're going to have to sit there and you're going to have to Google your heart out to figure out what you got to do. Being humble, working on a pen test team for a fairly large company, you kind of get looked at as, the eyesore sometimes. And I'm not saying in Nordstrom we're looked at as the eyesore in the pen test team, but, you are looked at as the hackers, right? And that may steer some people away. Rather, they're going to have to work with you either way. So the biggest way to not portray that, I don't know how else to say it, so I'm just going to say it like this, is that arrogant hacker is you really have to make sure that you stay grounded, right? And understand that your technical skills, while, they are scaled above the traditional security engineer sense, that doesn't make you better than anybody, right? Because when you're working with a company, rather as a client of theirs, if you work for a third-party pen testing company, or if you're an internal pen tester, your job is to make things better than they were before. Continuous goals is another way to stay humble, keep that mindset going, right? You want to always set a goal, and you want to make sure it's realistic, right? You don't want to just say, I want to be a pen tester and say, I'm going to go get OSCP next month, because that's not going to happen. I mean, it might, and please prove me wrong, but you don't really hear stories about that. So make sure you set a roadmap for yourself, especially after this talk. That's what this whole talk is about, is to make your own roadmap and set realistic goals for yourself. And this is probably one of the bigger ones, is go find mentors. Go find individuals out there that can help you out constantly, that can, if at some kind of notice, can answer your questions or help lead you to the way you need to go. I'm more than happy to help anyone, after this talk. If you want to follow me on Twitter or on LinkedIn, please do, and ping me with questions anytime you need to, or you want to. I'll be glad to help you. And not seeking validation, but seeking education, right? So I always like to, I see a lot of individuals in the pen testing field that, are constantly getting like certifications to seek validation for themselves, which, don't get me wrong, that's what certifications are, what they're for. But don't just go and become a cert collector, right? Seek to educate yourself, learn something new that's going to take you out of your comfort zone, right? And such as, like, this year I focused on AWS and pen testing AWS, right? Do that same thing. Do something that's going to educate yourself and push you out of your comfort zone at the same time. And the last but not least, if anything, the most important, forget about fear, guys. You're going to be scared. I've been doing this for a long time, or for a while anyways, and I still have, moments where I'm like, oh, dang, I don't know if I can do this or if I should do this. And I say, you know what, screw with it. Life is long, but life is also short, So, just kind of grab it by the horn, so to speak, and don't worry about what's behind you, right? It's like Timon and Pumbaa say, you got to put the past behind you. So next talking point, being curious, right? I feel like that's one of the biggest things for pen testing. Anytime I've interviewed pen testers, I always look to see how curious they are. I honestly don't even worry too much about technical attributes first, because I want to see how hungry they are. So always look at things from a different perspective. Be hungry to learn new things, just like we talked about, right? Always look for ways to educate yourself. Be willing to dive into anything. If you look at my background, I've done that, right? And I'm not making myself a poster child, but I made it into pen testing from a non-traditional way. And I never said no. I was a yes man, right? I figured out ways how to maneuver away or maneuver around my schedule and not burn out very quickly, and was able to get to pen testing just because I was willing to just dive into anything, right? Be a tinkerer. That's how I've gotten decent at AWS pen testing, and writing a book now, and I've just tinkered around with AWS and the services within AWS and how they interact with users and other systems. And then try to understand different technology, such as cloud computing. Cloud computing is a big thing right now. It's a hot buzz. So if you want to find a specialty to get into, I definitely recommend cloud computing. So being a pen tester is about being a jack of all trades, but a master of none. We are Google Kung Fu masters, so to speak. So you have to, and that kind of just like feeds into just not being afraid to try new things. So growing your network. As I said, I got into security because of my network. I had the technical skills, I had a degree, and I had certifications. I even had a secret clearance, and I still couldn't get a job. But then I met someone who was able to put my career on the path that I wanted it to go, right? So as you can see, even leading up to being in security, I had done all the things on paper correctly. I just hadn't utilized my resources correctly. So how do you grow your network? Well, if you're in school, that's a great place to start, because a lot of your professors probably are also professionals within the industry, right? Me and Philip, we both teach, and we're also both engineers within the industry. So look at that. If you're going to a night school where it's adults, there might be individuals in your cohort that are engineers in the field, such as what happened with me, right? So don't be afraid. And this goes back to leaving fear in the rearview mirror. Don't be afraid to reach out to individuals within your school network to help get your career where you want to go, right? LinkedIn is a godsend, I think, right? You can literally send, flood people with friends requests, and just they'll accept it. And then you can just start talking to them like you've known them for 100 years, and most of the time they'll talk to you. So utilize that. It's a very professional resource to use, and it's going to help you. Like I said, that's the resource that got me into red teaming. So, and I did a lot of cool stuff when I was doing the red teaming with DoD. Twitter's another cool place. It's it's a lot more laid back, obviously, than LinkedIn. However, it's a really good place to see security news, and especially in the pen testing field or the hacker community, you see a lot of banter and things like that on Twitter. So I always recommend it. However, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone get a job through Twitter. I'm sure they have. I'm not denying that. But it is a good resource to network with other individuals. Even Facebook. I always say Facebook because, a lot of us have probably had Facebook for 10 years or so, if we've had it. And you may have a buddy who you didn't think would be in cyber and is in cyber now. And they might be able to help get you to where you want to go. So always make sure that you're looking out, scoping through your friends list and being like, oh yeah, Joe over here, he's in cybersecurity. Maybe he can help me out. Mentoring. It doesn't matter where you're at in your career. There's always someone below you, and this field is a lot about helping out each other. So the more you help out, the more that word's going to get out through your other networks. So when individuals find out that you're helping out and that you really care about this field and care about the individuals that are coming into the field, that's going to show a lot. So make sure that you find individuals to help out. And then obviously being a mentee, right? You want to be a mentee, you need to find a mentor or multiple. I always say multiple. And a mentor, by the way, doesn't have to be a physical person. I always like to say one of my mentors is Batman. I have idolized Batman since I was about 3 years old. Y'all can laugh at me if you want, but I have always thought he was an awesome individual to idolize because he just does things for the good of Gotham, and he has a lot of cool gadgets, right? And then another person that I look up to that has a mentor is Elon Musk. That individual, he does so much, and he doesn't. I feel like he doesn't do it for the money. And you follow him and you see him like do things with shares and stocks and then sell all his stuff and get rid of all his money and all this other crazy stuff. So I feel like he's just an individual that, is doing what he does because he has a passion. Conventions, all these cons going around, right? We were talking about that before the talk about how everything is virtual now. And that's just not only to just attend, but to talk. And I don't know if any of my mentees are in the crowd today, but I actually have my mentees submit talks. I've been having them do that during the virtual con phase because that's going to help get their name out there and grow their network on both LinkedIn and Twitter, right? It's really going to help push your career field forward, and you don't have to do some crazy technical talk, right? So if giving a talk is something that you're interested in, think about a subject that, is really near and dear to you, so to speak, and try to formulate that into a talk and publish it out. Make sure that you have your mentors look it over, right? So that they can, kind of buff out the edges, but I highly recommend doing that. Internships, fortunately, during the COVID era, we don't really have any internships right now. You see them kind of there, here and there, but but when they do become alive again, go after them. Go after them. Rather it's little pay or no pay. Most of them, I think, pay now. If anything, they paid pretty decently. go after them. And then on the job training, right? That's, you know, if you can find someone if you know someone who has a consulting company, see if you can go do some on the job training with them. I've worked with consulting companies that did that. So it's free labor for them, and it's a good training experience and a recommendation for you. So growing technical skills, right? This is the good meaty stuff that we all want to learn. Try HackMe, Hack the Box, VulnHub, which actually just had VulnHub now has a partnership with Offensive Security, which, you know, they're the ones who give out the OSCP exam. I would highly expect the VulnHub machines to more fall in line with training for the OSCP. These are going to be some good, cheap, VulnHub is free, resources that you can use to, one, grow your network, because there's, you know, a lot of hackers and students and professionals on there that they talk amongst each other, and it's very competitive. You know, you can go on leaderboards, things like that. But that's really going to help grow your technical skills. Books, I feel like that's a pretty obvious one, and I don't have any, you know, I didn't recommend any on here just because there's so many. But I always like to use the rule of thumb. If you want to learn it, just go buy the book. That's it. Just go buy the book. Books are cheap, especially online books. You can go to like Humble Bundle and stuff like that and get a whole mess of books for like $20. Use your network to share books with each other. If you're a student, you typically have a library that you can get all the free books you want to from. So if you want to learn it, just pick up a book. That's all you got to do. Just pick it up and start learning. And if you get halfway to the book, you're like, I don't really like this. This isn't me. Okay, well, what did you lose? You lost maybe a few hours of your time, but you learned something, at least one thing. HackerOne and BugCrowd, I really like these options because while bug bounty is not easy, especially if you're starting out, it is a really great way to learn how to do web application security assessments in a real world scenario, because you're hacking real websites, right? And these real websites are going, if you find a bug, you have to submit an actual business template style pen test report to it. And they will, you know, they'll accept your pen test report or they won't, or they'll log it or they'll pay you or whatever, right? And that's beside the point. But the great point is that you learn how to actually assess real world business web applications. And then programming, you know, there's programming languages that we'll talk about at the end. But if you want to learn a programming language, just pick up a book. Don't go out. Somebody asked me about a boot camp not too long ago. And if you want to become a developer, those boot camps are great. And if you want to go down that track, that's great. But they're expensive, right? You can get into a lot of debt real quick if you do that. So if you do that, don't do it if you don't plan on going into like a software development, secure software kind of track that leads into pen testing or some kind of offensive security job, because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So here are some speed bumps that I constantly hear and experienced on my own when I was trying to get into just even tech. Is lack of experience. How many times, man, if we were doing this live, you know, in an actual class, in an actual room, I'd say show of hands who's had, you know, lack of experience shoved in their face from a job interview or even just a job submission. And I guarantee at least 3/4 of us would raise our hands. Lacking experience, security programming, technical, right? So what's the best way to do that? Yeah, even with experience, still getting that. I still get it. And lacking experience though, yeah, security, man, that's the big one, right? Because that's what this talks about getting into security. So what's the best way to do that? We go back and we talk about building our technical skills and utilizing our network. That's the best way you're going to do that. And you know, we live in a digital era now where you can make a blog and you can do a write-up for something that you did on Hack the Box or VulnHub or anything, right? You can do a write-up and showcase that to your network and hopefully get a job. And I see so many people get jobs like that. Programming, start a GitHub repo, even if it has silly code like hello world. I'm not even joking. If you write hello world in every single programming language possible, put it in your GitHub, make a GitHub repo, because then you'll hold yourself accountable to start building that GitHub repo. And then technical wise, you know, that's a very broad range, right? And so that just depends on what you want to learn. Lacking certifications, please don't go after the big ones first, right? I know so many individuals, especially students, that they see the big, nice, juicy certs that get you these 6-figure jobs and all that stuff. And while that is true, you can get that 6-figure job without having to get that big, juicy cert. It takes a little longer, but it's going to be a lot less headache, and you're going to have a lot more of a natural path into that 6-figure income where you get the position that you want. So start with the basic certs and go forward from there, right? So I always say, you know, don't go to OSCP first. Don't even go to Pentest Plus first. Pentest Plus is, man, that's a headache of a cert, to be honest. And I talked about that on Twitter a couple days ago. But start out with things like Security Plus, CEH, the eCPPT, and we'll talk about this in a second. But start with those lower level certs, those more beginner friendly certs. Lack of job openings. This is a big one. And I mention this all the time to a lot of individuals. And for anyone who is in the military, you get this told at you at TAPS class that you got to go where the jobs are. And I'm a country boy from a small town in North Carolina, and there is no way I could get a job in security, let alone tech, from where I was from. So you have to go where the jobs are. And that's, you know, I've been on the West Coast for, 10 years now, back and forth between San Diego and Seattle, San Diego. And I've made multiple trips back and forth between those two cities. So you have to go where the jobs are. And yeah, some places might cost more, but the tech, it's usually cost more because of tech wages. And guess where you're going to work in? You're going to work in tech. So lack of motivation. Don't burn yourself out. I see so many people, including myself, that say, I'm going to do this, and this. And you write out this beautiful roadmap and these things that you're going to do, and it's awesome, but you don't make any time to stop. Or you don't, even if it's like not even a week, you don't take any time throughout the day to stop, right? You got to make sure that you do that, and you have to hold yourself accountable to it. Otherwise, it's going to hurt yourself later. And I'm speaking that from experience time and time again. So make sure that you make breaks, whether it be, you know, a week here, a week there, or just little iterations throughout your day. Take breaks to get away from the computer, get away from cyber stuff, right? Here where I live in a national forest, and so I go for a hike with my kids. I have a farm, so I go out and tend to the animals. Or I like to read just books in general, so I go and read a book that's not tech related. So I do a couple things like that, right? And though that stuff physically gets me away from the computer. And, you know, having a farm is nice because I have to. It's not I guess I'll do it. I have to go tend to my animals in my farm. So not saying go get a farm, but do definitely take little breaks throughout the day. And, you know, at least breaks throughout the year, a little bit here and there, because you have to treat yourself, basically. Otherwise, you know, you can only keep it up for so long. And there's also an equation. I have an article written about it, and I'll put it out at the end of the talk, where there's an equation about high performance people and how they maintain that high performance. It's an equation called stress plus rest equals growth. And it's where you put your body through intense stress, right? And then you do something for a long time, and then you have to rest so that you can allow your body to recover, or your mind, and then you grow from that. So career paths, how do we get into pen testing? You don't see any pen testing jobs here. What the heck, man? Well, guess what? Most of the time, you're not going to just get into pen testing. Oh, it's not what happens. So career paths, how can we get into pen testing? Well, let's look at the help desk jobs around. Those are usually all over the place, and the requirements to get those jobs aren't too difficult. You usually can find somebody in your network to get you a help desk job. That's really going to teach you the ins and outs of tech within a corporation. From there, you could go from being a sysadmin, right, where you're actually like administering rights, privileges, systems, things like that, right? Network administrator, where you kind of turn gears and you actually go and look at networks for a company that you're working for. Those are going to be those 3 jobs. I always like to put those first because those are 3 jobs that's really going to help solidify your knowledge and push your career forward in a way that you want it to go. And again, that's also about setting a foundation, right? It's hard to set a foundation as a pen tester in these fields when you have to do pen testing. It's kind of like drinking with a fire hose. Security specialist. There's a lot of different jobs here, right? You can go work in a SOC. That's a pretty common one. Go be a security engineer or a network security engineer, information assurance, vulnerability management, or in the cloud. Then you can independent, you can actually do this on your own. You can do that on the side while you're going through all these jobs. Be a researcher, bug bounty hunter, such as like HackerOne, BugCrowd, things like that, right? And, if you want to go into the programmer route, it kind of excludes these other positions. However, I do actually see help desk specialists or support engineers go and become programmers. They'll be a help desk while they're going through school or something. So you can go be a programmer, secure software engineer, things like that, right? So these are some good positions to look at when you're wanting to get into pen testing, because these are going to set a good foundation for you. So the next slide, the good stuff, right? What are these, there's more names to being a pen tester than just being a pen tester. So these are some of the job titles: penetration tester, pen tester, right? Red teamer, offensive security engineer, application security engineer. Those are going to be the individuals that are actually going to be assessing applications, helping securely build them. Look up orange teaming if you're interested in something like that. Ethical hacker, right? You don't see that so much, but I still see it sometimes. So, you can go on LinkedIn or Indeed and look up ethical hacker, and you'll probably find some companies that ask for it. Exploit developer, that's where you're actually developing exploits for pieces of software and applications. Consultant, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to be doing offensive security and pen testing, but you're just going to be an all-around kind of fix-it person. And that might be, doing vulnerability management or doing exploit dev and pen testing. And then purple teaming, that's where you're doing the middleman of blue teaming and red teaming operations. And you have to know both to do that. And, that's actually, believe it or not, goal of mine one day is to join a purple team and kind of like play both sides of the field a little bit. But that's another good job. And I put that last because that's kind of like something that I traditionally feel like you would need to do at least red teaming or blue teaming or one of these other jobs before you went and just did that, because you have to know at least some of the operation side. All right. So education, right? You'll hear things about like, oh, well, I don't need a degree to become a pen tester. It's 100% true. However, I have a couple degrees and I'm getting a PhD. I know Philip has degrees and things like that. So, getting a degree is going to help make you competitive. Is it a requirement? Not all the time. I have there's pen testers on my team at Nordstrom that they don't have a degree. They've been in the tech field for a long time, but they don't have a degree. But a degree is going to help push your career at a more accelerated rate, right? And we see these degrees with these accelerated tracks so that you can get done faster. You can get to where you want to go faster. Well, if you have a degree, it's going to get you to in your career field faster. So these are some of the degrees that you can get. Don't really want to worry about reading all of those. But so typically you're going to see bachelor degrees are required, right? For most jobs, right? And a master's degree is typically desired. That's going to be the crucial point to help make you competitive. And think about it now, where jobs are becoming remote. And so a job in Seattle isn't just only for the individuals in Seattle. Now it's for the individuals all over the country. So if you have a master's degree in Florida, if you're someone in Florida and you have a master's degree in, a couple certifications, you might outweigh the individual that's closer to Seattle or, in the Seattle area that has only a bachelor's degree in a couple certifications, right? So it's competitive, and, degrees, they hold a different weight than certs, and we can talk about that in the Q&A afterwards because I see a couple questions about it. But, don't ever think that a degree is worth more than a cert and that a cert is worth more than a degree. It's a different ballgame, It's a whole different ballgame. It's not even the same field, different ballgame, right? And then it says stay competitive, stay in school. Right? If anybody is interested in education, I'm very big into academia. My two areas of interest are academia and cloud. So if anyone is interested ever in academia, please let me know. So certifications, let's talk about the cost benefit analysis and all that good stuff, right? And talk about how long it's going to take you to get these and, you know, how much money you think you're going to spend. And is it going to be worth your money and your time? All right. So the Security Plus, the cert that we all know and love because it's the old trusty, right? It's a requirement to get into DoD, right? If you want to get into security in the DoD, you got to have this cert. It's a gatekeeper. So it's $350 for the voucher, $200 for some videos and test books and stuff like that. So let's even it out to $550, $500. Let's say $500. It's going to take you about 3 months to get it. So if I do some simple math in my head, that's about what? 150? No, about $175, $70 a month that you're going to be spending. Is it going to get you a job that you want? If it is, if that job pays at least $2,000 more a year, then it's worth it, right? So the exam's 90 minutes long. You get a maximum of 90 questions. Usually ranges between, I think, like 50 and 90, depending. You have to get a 750 on a scale of 1 to 900 or 100 to 900. How difficult, though, is this without passing, or how difficult is it to pass without industry experience? What I mean by that is security experience. It's not too challenging if you do 3 months of consistent studying. Consistent studying is, 1 to 2 hours a day. And if you do that, you're gonna likely pass, right? So think about that. Think about how much money you're gonna be spending, stuff like that. All right, so the cert that is a big controversy in the ethical hacking, pen testing, offensive security world, the EC Council, CEH, which I actually, after this talk, I have to renew my CEUs. I forgot they're about to expire. So the voucher is $1,200. Materials probably cost you another $200. 3 months. 3 months in the max, right? Again, we're baselining it. Unless I say otherwise, baselining it, consistent studying is about 2 hours a day. The exam is 4 hours long. It's 125 questions. You have to get between a 60 and an 85% to pass. It depends on the exam that they give you. How difficult is this to pass? Well, it's challenging with proper studying because it's the Security Plus essentially, but they implement hacking methodologies into it. It's less challenging though if you buy the $2,000 EC Council prep course. So when we see the marketing campaign there, right? So is the prep course worth it? I can answer that right now. I went through it and I thought it was okay. I'll say that. It was okay. If you don't have any experience, it's worth it. If you do have experience, it's okay. So this one, man, I'm sitting here clapping my hands too. This is probably my favorite cert on the entire slide deck. And the OSCP is on this slide deck. Why is this my favorite cert though? So the eLearn Security Junior Penetration Tester, $500 for 4 exam vouchers, labs, and materials. That's an awesome value. What's the problem? It doesn't have like a lot of industry recognition. It's starting to get there. Now, when I took it 3 years ago, nobody knew what it was. It was a cool bullet point to put on my resume and be like, oh yeah, I got CH and Security Plus. And be like, oh, what's the CJPT? Oh, well, let me tell you. It's a cert that I had to study for about 1 to 3 months. I think I studied right at about a month because I had CEH and some security background. So I had a decent comprehension of like ethical hacking, and I've been playing with Kali Linux for a long time. But I said it's this 3-day cert or 3-day certification exam that provides you a real world pen testing environment. And you have to go and actually do a black box pen test. Oh, well, is it question based? No, it's 100% hands-on. They do have questions that you have to answer, and you have to get a 70% to pass. So you have to answer 70% of the questions right. But the only way to answer the questions is to do things in the exam, right? And it's a black box pen test, and there's even like pivoting and proxy chaining and things like that, if I remember correctly. It's a really cool exam. And it's my favorite exam, favorite one, easily. Passing without industry experience, less challenging. But why is it less challenging? Is it a challenging exam? Absolutely. So why is it less challenging without industry experience? Because eLearn Security provides you all the materials you need to pass that exam. Hands down. You don't have to go look anywhere else. They're going to give you everything. They're going to give you labs, materials, videos, all that good stuff. So for those of you looking to get some hands-on stuff for a bargain, go to this cert. Quick mention, this cert, like I said, the CEH, that's a cert that you have to have if you want to do compliance-based pen testing, and we have to do compliance-based pen testing because it's regulated. So that's a good cert to get if you want to try to find a job that's going to keep the lights on and put bread on the table. So practical ECH, this is a newer cert. Very, very new cert. I think it tries to take on the EJPT in a sense. So $550 for a voucher, $300 for more labs and materials and stuff. You can just use like Hack the Box and VulnHub. 1 to 3 months of consistent studying. Again, it's a lot like the EJPT where you're answering questions by doing something in an environment. It's only 6 hours long instead of 3 days long like the EJPT. It's also proctored. So you got somebody sitting there watching you the entire time. And not that that should, you know, push you away or anything, but it is, you do have that. So it's, and you have to have a 70%, just like the EJPT to pass. Passing without industry experience, challenging. Why is this more challenging though than the EJPT? Because you have a time crunch. 6 hours is not a lot of time. It's really not a lot of time. I did this cert back in, I think it was like October to September. And, you know, it was a fun exam, but if I hadn't had any like hands-on experience, it would have been challenging, very challenging, because that time crunch, that 6 hour window makes it stressful. As opposed to the EJPT, you have 3 days to get it done. And I'd like to note, if you get the EC Council CH and the CH Practical, you get another cert. They combine it into one cert, and they give you a nice piece of paper. It's called the EC, or I'm looking at it, I have it right behind me. It's the CEH Master, so the Certified Ethical Hacker Master. So this, the Pentest Plus, another one, if any of you have taken it, man, this is a crazy cert. It's difficult, guys. It's difficult. Vouchers about $350. You're going to spend about $300 extra on materials, videos, labs, all that stuff. Why do you need labs if it's not a hands-on exam? Because CompTIA doesn't do hands-on exams. They still give you some pretty grueling scenario questions where you're actually doing like some web app pen testing stuff and like breaking down Python code and bash scripts and all sorts of crazy stuff. So you're only going to understand that by doing, right? So 3 to 4 months of consistent studying. Again, remember, consistent studying is about 2 hours a day. I would say 3 to 4 months if you want to, go in with a solid, like, I'm going to pass. And so the exam is 165 minutes long. It's a maximum of 85 questions. I think when I took it, it was like 60-ish or something, right? All multiple choice, except the scenario-based questions. But even those, even the multiple choice questions, they do a really good job of breaking it down to where, like, I was sitting there, like, going through questions. I was like, man, if I did not do this for a living, this would be really, really tough, because they break it down into scenarios really, really well. So passing without industry experience is pretty challenging. I'm just going to say challenging. So if anyone is interested in taking this cert, please let me know. I can show you some materials that are pretty good to brush up on things and learn things for the exam. The GPEN, right? This is an expensive cert that's not really student friendly, but it's 2,000 grand for a voucher, and then a whopping $7,000+ for the training and net wars. The net wars are like this, it's like this, this hands-on training hacker experience that they do, right? So why did I put this on there, right? Because I was even thinking about it. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll take it off. This is a good cert to get if you're in a company and you want to get into pen testing. Let's say you've been with a company for a while and they give you a training budget. And you're like, well, I want to get the GPEN. The GPEN's a really good cert. It's just really expensive because SANS is noted as one of the best training providers. So if you work for a company, say, hey, if the budget pays for it, I would like to get the GPEN. If they pay for it, then get it. 4 months of consistent studying. Again, that's the 2 hour window. Exam is 3 hours long, 82 to 115 questions, 75% to pass. Challenging without proper studying, but less challenging with studying an efficient index. What the heck is an index? So you can actually take in a bunch of materials. This is a multiple question exam that you have to take in a test center, but you can take in materials with you. You can take in a whole bag of books, a whole cart of books if you want, and you make an index of all the areas that you might not be so strong in, or just an index of all the key points that you think are going to be on the exam, and you take that in. You're able to reference that throughout the exam. So, yeah. Somebody says, if you pay this out of pocket, I hope you pass it on your first time, because I would not want to have to spend $2,000 on another voucher. So this is another great exam. This is a good follow-up from the EJPT. It's the eCPPT. Try saying that a lot of times fast, seeing how many times you can say it fast until it comes out to sound like gibberish. $1,600 for materials, lab, and an exam voucher. They give you all the labs, just like in the EJPT, all the materials, all the good stuff that you need, right? 2 to 4 months of consistent studying. I would make the bandwidth a little larger for this, maybe 3 to 4 hours, because you're going to be in the labs. You're going to be doing a lot of lab work on this, and they give you the labs. You don't have to like go out and do Vulnhub machines and hack the box and stuff. You can, but this exam is not more of like it's not a CTF. It's more of a real world pen test. So it's 7 days long. So you have 7 days to do this black box pen test where eLearn Security gives you a rules of engagement, also known as an ROE, and you basically do what they tell you to. Not that they tell you like how to pass the exam. They just tell you what you need to go find. And then you write a report. So you do the pen test for 7 days. You have 7 days to do it. And once you've completed all the objectives, you write a report and you send it to them. Passing without industry experience, pretty challenging. Even though they give you all the stuff, it's still challenging. Truth be spoken, I've actually failed this exam. And I have the OSCP. So it's not an easy exam. I went for it and failed it. And I just, I took it as a learning experience, and still have like the labs and stuff, and just went after the OSCP. But it is a really good exam, especially if you want to do like real world pen testing stuff. The OSCP, the big one, right? So, $13.49 for labs, materials, all that stuff. I would recommend probably budgeting another 90-day lab extension. They're going to give you lab access, all that stuff. So you're going to be doing that. 6 to 12 months of consistent studying, with also using Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, Vulnhub for additional studying, right? Because that's free or cheap. 6 to 12 months of, I would say, 3 to 4 hours. I know people that do it for like 6 hours a day. So it's a really, really tough exam. It's 48 hours long, 24-hour hands-on assessment where you hack 5 machines that, are different difficulties. And then you have 24 hours to write a report and send it to offensive security. And then passing without industry experience. It's very challenging even with proper studying. So when you're doing this, I actually have a blog on this that talks about how failing forward with the OSCP, and how I think even like the title of it is, welcome to the OSCP and enjoy the suck while you're here. So I'll make sure I put that blog out there for you guys too. So programming, Python, Bash, those are good scripting languages. Python's really good because you can write a lot of exploit writing is with that. I actually added Ruby to this. Why? Because it's also a great scripting language, and I'm getting biased with it. I like it. I've been doing it a lot lately. And you can write Metasploit exploits with it. So, because everything in Metasploit is written in Ruby. C and Java, those are going to be good because a lot of the exploits are going to be written in that, especially if you see like Windows exploits. So for those of you that go through like the OSCP process, you're going to see a lot of exploits that are either written in Java, C, Python. You might see some PHP stuff, but the primary ones you're going to see are like Python and C, or C variants of C. So I'm trying to close this up because I'm already been talking for a while. Other knowledge, Windows, Linux, pretty straightforward. We need to know our operating systems. Any pen testing job that you go to in your interviews, you're going to be asked different questions based on Windows and Linux. And it's just not commands. It's going to be knowing the operating system itself. Networking, you need to be able to spit out protocols and ports ports and their associated protocols and vice versa at the touch of a button. You can't be like, oh, let me Google that. Let me Google that, right? The OSI model is another big thing. You need to know the 7 layers, or as we in the hacker industry, we always like to say the 8 layers. If you know what the layer 8 is, that's awesome. We can also talk about that. And software, you just need to know basics of how software operates, because you're going to be pen testing software a lot. And then the cloud, you need to know the basics of cloud. And I'm not just talking about AWS. I'm talking about GCP, Azure, all that good stuff. You need to understand the service user cloud service provider model. And I like to put that there. Security knowledge makes you competitive. There's not a lot of pen testers that are, savvy, so to speak, in cloud pen testing. So if you become very savvy in that field, you become, kind of competitive in the industry. So these are some slides that I have added just for you guys. I was really, really excited to show these. So this is a high-level roadmap. I apologize for the weird colors. But this is how you could go. Remember, we talked about getting on a help desk. This is how you go from being on a help desk to becoming a pen tester. So as you see, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then you see certifications on the right. Those are the certifications that you should get in order to put yourself into the next position. So help desk, how long should you be there? 6 to 2 years, I would recommend. Get Security Plus to help put you into a sysadmin role. Or you could even bypass that and try to get, maybe another cert like CEH or eJPT and become a security engineer. This is just a roadmap. You can obviously make your own exceptions to it. But if you want to take a really good fundamental approach, get on a help desk job, stay there for 6 months to 2 years, get your Security Plus, and then go into sysadmin, learn how to build out networks and systems and things like that and administer them. Get a couple other certs. Again, you want to get certs that are going to push to your end goal. You don't want to get like a Windows cert. I mean, you can. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying don't, but if you're, getting a degree or something, and by the way, you can get a degree while you're doing this. I did, and I know a lot of people do. Don't worry about that. You're going to learn that all on the job training while you're working. So when you get into that sysadmin job, stay there for about 6 months to 2 years, get a couple other certs. Next to 2, we see CH, Pentest Plus, and eJPT. Love that eJPT. Great value. Great value. And CEH is going to make you compliant. So then you can go be a security engineer. Right. And you can go work at for the DoD, or you don't even have to go work for the DoD. If you have CEH, it's a really sexy cert. For those of us that have it or know about it or whatever, we might disagree. And like I said, it's a very controversial cert. However, it's going to get you a job. So get 1 or 2 of those certs, or all 3 if you have the time, if you're in the perseverance, and then segue into the security engineer position. That's where you're really going to start making a name for yourself. Really start making a name for yourself, and you're really going to engrave yourself in the security community. Get the eCPPT or the OSCP, and stick that out, and while you're in your security engineer position for that year to 3 years or so, and then get into red teaming, get into pen testing. And while you're doing your red teaming and pen testing, if you want, get CISSP and a master's degree or both. And, from there, you can become like a principal engineer or become management director, right? Or you could go do purple teaming, things like that. I just put management as a whole. But, if you look at it, if you want to do like short track, 6 months, a year to pen testing, that's 2 years. That's not a long time. I know it sounds like a long time, but if you go to a traditional university, you're there for 4 years. So it's really, really not a long time. So, take note of this. We can talk about this more in the Q&A, but I think this is a really good track to kind of like give yourself some buffer on shortest amount of time possible and decent amount of time possible. So, but from a student approach, which is the next slide, this is the student to pen test track. So 2 to 4 year plan. And what I mean by that is, getting an associate's or an undergraduate degree and not working, the traditional, I'm doing air quotes here, track. Degree programs, computer science, cybersecurity, information technology, informatics. Those are some pretty common popular degrees that will lead you into pen testing eventually. So we start out in the fall, we go into the spring, and then we go to the summer where you may go to school or you may not, if you're, depending on what school you go to. So that's the 1 year lapse. So you go do that cycle, and that's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, right? So the internship and cert, right? Internships can turn into a full-time cyber position. That happens all the time. I see so many people that intern and then they leave to go finish up school, but they're given conditional job opportunities before they leave. And I'm not even making that up. Like that I know I have a lot of engineers that work in security at Nordstrom that were interns last year, and they were entering their 4th year, but before they went to go enter their 4th year, they were given conditional job offers. So that's pretty awesome considering, the economy kind of like took a dump. Make sure you find those internships while you're going to school, or even just part-time jobs or full-time jobs. It's a grind, but you can do it. Obtain or start training for a certification while in an internship. I think that's a big issue that I see a lot with students, is that they go to their summer internship, they have fun working in the field, and they kind of just like forget about maintaining that like hungry mindset where they want to learn the industry, which is 100% awesome and 100% needed. However, to keep that analytical learning mindset, I always say at least start doing a cert. Like maybe use some of your extra financial aid to get a cert, such as like Security Plus or something, because it's going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you hungry. And then you're going to get Security Plus or CH or whatever, and you're going to, be really set up to when your degree program is up. Then you're going to get into your entry-level position. And I actually took some of this data from just various students that I've seen, and including myself, and the way how we moved from being students to into the career field. I would say go find an entry-level position, such as like a security engineer, help desk role, something like that, and kind of like do that last path that we just talked about, and do that for 6 months to 2 years, and then get your pen testing job. All right. Staying curious and giving back. We're all about giving back. Small community, really want to give back and help out. So join Reddit, Discord, Slack. There's a lot of different Discords and Slack channels out there, and Reddit's a great place to go to. Create a blog, post anything on there, right? If you go to my blog, I post a lot of different things, whether it be technical or not technical. Just post things that interest you, because it's going to show individuals, such as employers, that you're hungry and that you have a passion, and that's what they want. Especially when you want to become a pen tester, you have to be hungry and curious and have a passion in what you're doing. Subscribe to these hacking platforms. We've already talked about these. You guys know them. Find your niche. Find something that you like. Right? I'm not going to read that out, but there's going to be a bunch of different areas of cybersecurity and even pen testing that you're going to like. Like I said, I really like cloud, and I really like academia, because I like cloud because it's the new hot buzz. And then I also really like academia because I'm really big on giving back. And I like to teach pen testing and offensive security to students. And I like learning. So find a mentor. Don't need to talk about that anymore, right? Because we've talked about how you need to go find people to help lead you and to help you get you where you want to go. Find other student pen testers. This is a key point. Don't just find somebody below you and find people above you, but find people that are in the same position that you're in. Because guess what? You're going to all group up together, and you're going to help each other out, and you're going to learn from each other. So I do that. I find individuals at my same level, and I go forward. And those bug bounty programs, can't talk about those enough. Those are going to teach you real world application pen testing. Challenges during COVID. I talked about this during my DEFCON talk quite a bit. So, remote work has become popular. So make sure online presence pretty visible. Go to LinkedIn, everybody. Go to Twitter. Use those social media networks to help get your name out there. Hiring freezes. This does kind of suck. So, there was a lot of hiring freezes. The economy is starting to pick back up. So use that. Go forward if you can. Use your network again. Attend those virtual conferences. Even take the big leap and submit some papers to go talk at conferences. And then look at those bug bounty programs. That's going to teach you even more ethical hacking in a real web application pen test sense, as well as maybe make you a couple bucks. You might find a bug. And then this is the hard one that I don't like talking about, but it is real. So if you're laid off, because we've seen lots of individuals get laid off. Maybe you've you've personally been laid off. Use that. Don't fall into a rut. I've been laid off. Don't fall into a rut. Use that time to really assess where you want to go. And I honestly think layoffs sometimes, or being laid off, is a blessing in disguise. Because the one time I was laid off, it really helped me push my career where I wanted to go. Because I had some money saved up, and I wasn't so busy about doing something for a company. I was more worried about busy doing something for myself. And it really helped push my career to where I wanted to go. So if you get laid off or you get furloughed, use that time to re-up your skills, get a certification. I've seen so many people getting certs during this COVID era. So, use that and then follow through steps 1 and 2, right? Start making your online presence bigger, start getting out there and just getting it, and use your network and start attending all these conferences, man. They're free and they're online. And even if they aren't free, I paid $100 for B-Side Seattle Day, and it's $100. That's it. So, closing thoughts. So this is the last slide. Closing thoughts are: you're going to start your career. You're going to have a lot of motivation. You're going to have all those endorphins going through your blood, and you're going to be all hyped up, and you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then you're going to hit a speed bump, and you're going to fail, and you're going to fall on your face. But make sure when you fall on your face, everyone, make sure you fall forward, because guess what? When you get up, at least you made some forward progress. And then you look back and you learn and you say, oh, dang, I did that wrong, or I did it like that. I shouldn't do it like that again. And then you're going to think about it. You're going to make this, cognitive choice to not do that again. And you're going to do it better the next time. And you're going to grow. Because security is a journey and it's not a destination. And that's it. I wanted to say thanks to you guys at the Pwn School Project, and a big thanks to Mr. Philip Wiley for allowing me to be here and hang out with you guys. So with that, I don't know what to do.
Well, thanks for joining us. I guess we can go through and see what questions we have. Let's see. We did have someone ask if your slides are going to be available.
Absolutely. I'll let's see. Let me stop sharing my screen really quick. I will make them available right in just a second. While I'm doing that, is there any other questions?
Yeah, someone said your Twitter says you can't be messaged.
I can't be messaged?
Yeah, maybe they're just not.
I'm not Twitter savvy. I don't even know what that means.
Maybe just because you may have to be following them, possibly, that might be what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check on that. I'm not sure why that's doing that. That's weird.
Yeah, someone said you need to turn on your DMs. Yeah, there's a way to enable. Some people have open DMs and anyone can send them messages. But typically, if you don't have open DMs, then you can only send a person a DM if they're following you back.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to do that. Let's see. Anyone with the link can view. Okay. Coming hot off the Google Drive press. All right. I put it in the chat for anyone who wants to go grab the slide deck.
Yeah, I had one question from Jefferson. He says, what about a person like me with 10 years of internal audit? What should be a good move in order to be a pen tester without having to start my career from the beginning?
I assume like technical auditing.
Yeah, he's like IT audit.
Oh, okay. Well, you're already a step ahead of the game. Then at that point, you really just need to start looking at where you want to pivot from auditing. You could even do like security auditing and kind of like segue that into becoming a pen tester. There's what is it? Is it like the CISA, the Security Information Security Auditor or something? That's a good cert to get if you want to start to like make a general approach into pen testing, because that's going to get you a security kind of title under your belt.
Yeah,
or I mean, you can even
works in like a security audit. So the good thing about that position is being familiar with audit, just learning how to do things pen testing. There's a mindset there that is going to benefit someone who wants to be a pen tester if you have the auditing background. Because currently, actually, Jefferson and I work together, and they're doing a network audit, and I'm also doing a pen test at the same time. So kind of seeing some of the questions they ask and what we're doing, it's kind of gives you a little insight
Oh,
that's kind
nice.
of valuable as a pen tester.
Well, then he just needs to go hang out with you, man. You got to get him the in.
Yeah, he's actually going to be taking my class this semester. So.
Oh, nice. Well, there you go, and you're already doing the right things. You're taking a pen test class, or a security class under someone who works in the field, and that's really the first stepping stone. It doesn't start. It doesn't happen overnight, right? You have to. It's a process that, as we've seen, you have to do a lot of different steps to get into it. So.
Okay, let's see. Someone says, do you find that you have to convince the business when it costs a lot to fix things that you find when pen testing?
So in an internal pen testing, they don't kind of have a choice. Like you submit something and they have to do it. From a client standpoint, yeah, you can have some pushback, because the big thing there is that there's a variable that I always talk about, that it's not a technical variable, it's a person variable, and that's culture. And if you submit a finding that goes against culture, you're going to beat a lot of heads, so to speak. And that's where you have to actually work with people as people. And it's really just kind of you have to kind of roadmap it from there with them and see if it's something that they can fix or if they can't fix. And if they can't fix it, find a way to put some kind of mitigating or not mitigating, I'm sorry, compensating control around it, right? One of the big issues that I always found with when I was doing consulting is XP machines were everywhere. And we don't even need to talk about the eyesore that XP machines are, but I knew a lot of companies that couldn't get rid of them because they needed them. They didn't have the budget to update or get whatever, right? So I said, okay, guys, just put a WAF, at least put a WAF and put them on their own segregated network so that they're not accessible by the outside internet, right? So those are going to be things that you're going to come up with. And when you have instances like that happen, you really have to work with them. And if they can't do what you're telling them, you have to figure out a way to at least help them with the resources that they have. And the biggest way to do that is to implement some kind of compensating control.
So Paul asks, is there anything wrong with staying blue team engineering, architect, and management?
No. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. This wasn't a talk to be like, we're red teamers and pen testers, this is the great way, come this way. No, if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. I hold a high standard to anyone who wants to be a blue teamer, because it's not the sexy side of cybersecurity, and you guys do a lot. I feel like you do a lot more than pen testers, because you're having to constantly look at the real world of your network. And what I mean by that is you're looking at everything in real time and having to fix things as it's happening in real time. All we do is we go break stuff and submit findings to people and say, hey, fix this, and we'll come back in 6 months.
Okay, we have another question from Corey. It said, I graduated with my BS in information technology in December and started my master's in cybersecurity the next month. Also have A+, Network Plus. I've been with my organization for about 4 years. They created a brand new position. It was offered to me, Information Security Administrator. I come from help desk over about 7 years. What would you recommend to hit the ground running?
If you're getting offered a position that's going to be an incline from what you're doing, then always take that. Always take the position that's going to be a step up from what you're doing, even if it makes less money, because in the long run, you're going to make more money. I always say, follow your passion and the money will follow. And there's been plenty of times in my career where I've taken less money for a different position just because I knew it was going to get me to where I wanted to go. So again, if you're in the help desk and a sysadmin position is being offered to you, definitely take it, because that's just, again, it's a vertical move.
Yeah, and just to add my 2 cents worth, if your company's offering you a position of security, sometimes that's the easiest way to get into a different role, like security, is to move from IT. That's what I did. I was a sysadmin and I got to move into security. Sometimes that's easier, because if you were to leave your company and try to move into security, it may be difficult if you don't have security specific experience. But if your company's offering to move you into that role, then that would definitely be worth it.
Yeah. 100%. I unfortunately, like at my first company where I was a help desk guy and I did help desk and firewall network stuff. They didn't have any security stuff for me, or they did, but I was going to have to move to Boston, and I didn't want to move to Boston. So I wound up finding a security position somewhere else. But had I had the opportunity to take a security position locally where I was at, I would have done that 100%. And yeah, so it's often easier sometimes too if you do everything that we just talked about and you grind and all that stuff and you do all that with a company, they're gonna see it. They're gonna see it. It doesn't go blindly. And they'll notice it, and they'll eventually, you know, help get you where you want, especially if you stay with them. So
okay, Ria asks, how do you practice cloud security? Any good resources you suggest?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. Buy my book when it comes out. um, you know, there's CloudGoat, which is a cool open tool that you can use. However, that's only going to teach you so much. If you really want to learn, you know, how to pen test the cloud, you have to do it. You have to do the proprietary services, right? So like, you know, AWS has like S3, Lambda, EC2, things like that. And Azure has the full AD environment that actually integrates with a local AD environment, which scares the hell out of me. But you're going to have to really just set up your own labs within those environments. And there's plenty of things out there where you can look for pen testing Azure. I know I've seen quite a bit of labs on there. So, you know, just quick Google search will help you. AWS is a little less in my rummaging of the internet. There's a book put out actually by an engineer or a business owner or something, hacker in Seattle. That it's don't know the name of it, but it's actually by Pact. It's an AWS pen testing book. A lot of the stuff in it's kind of higher level, in my opinion, but it's still a good book. So yeah, that's a good book to pick up. Again, I don't remember the name of it. Just look up Pact AWS. The author's name is Benjamin. I don't remember his last name, but that's a good one. He owns the company Rhino Security, which is actually based out of Seattle. They do a lot of cloud pen testing stuff. And if you're ever interested in doing pen testing work, maybe hit him up. And then, yeah, honestly, it's just, you can do the CloudGoat stuff. Buy that AWS pen testing book. Look for, there's an Azure pen testing book. I forgot about that. It's actually on my desk, by No Starch Press. Get that book. And just kind of, I don't know, you kind of got to get curious and geeky with that. And that's why I said, if you get comprehensible, I guess the word I'm using or thinking of, if you get to a place where you're comfortable with cloud pen testing, you're going to be competitive. Because for the exact reason I was having trouble listing out resources, because there's not a lot. So look at those. Also look at my book when it comes out, and, you know, hopefully soon. So.
Yeah, someone asked, by the way, when is your book being released?
Man, I wish I knew. I think it's in, I would assume in December. I would assume, I don't know, because Pact, they usually publish stuff pretty quickly after, you know, things have been written up. So I've heard, and they told me they want to get it out by September or October. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I would say by at least the end of the year. So, and I'll make sure that it gets spammed all over the place.
And someone asks, what is your book called?
Oh, dang. I put that in the chat. Hold on. It's, you know, it's that book. It's talking about hacking everything in the cloud. I'm pulling up the abstract right now. It's called AWS Penetration Testing, Cloud Exploitation, Securing AWS Through Pen Testing. And it's by Pact, or it's published through Pact. So they're a pretty popular company. If you bought a Humble Bundle, chances are you have a bunch of their books.
Okay, we don't have any more questions, so I guess we will stop recording. So thanks again for presenting for us. This has been great.
Yeah.